Venezuela is ready to annex Guyana. China and Taiwan are putting troops into combat positions, and Iran and Israel have their hand on the nuclear button. Where will a major war break out in the near future? Venezuela versus Guyana, a conflict that has been frozen for over 150 years, may break out in Latin America. This conflict is favorable to Russia and could damage the reputation of the U.S. as a world power. This both makes the situation dangerous and keeps the conflict away because Venezuela realizes that its army cannot handle the U.S. Guyana has almost no army, and Venezuela does not have enough to challenge the world order on its own. The idea of controlling the Essequibo region is an old one. It is over 150 years old. But now, because of the international situation, it has become relevant. Most likely, Venezuela's statements are a PR stunt by President Nicolás Maduro before the elections. But if he does not back up his words with actions, it may play against him. Iran versus Israel. The conflict between Arabs and Jews in Palestine has lasted almost 150 years. It started as quarrels over land, grew into wars between the countries, and now it is Israel's fight against terrorist groups, or insurgents as the Arabs say. The idea of destroying Israel and taking over all of Palestine is popular in the Islamic world. Only leaders used to think about it, but now many ordinary people support the idea. But the leaders prefer to negotiate with Israel, as seen in the recent agreements. Although most Arabs are not ready to fight, there are those who want to use the conflict to their advantage. For example, Turkish President Recep Erdogan has pledged to protect the Palestinians. He benefits from this conflict to strengthen his Soviet influence. But who can really support the idea of a free Palestine is Iran. Although Iran is not an Arab country, Tehran wants to become the spiritual leader of all Muslims. Iran wants to lead all Muslims and replace Saudi Arabia, which now holds the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Iran has a strong army, high technology, and many people ready to mobilize. Israel has all that too, plus the experience of winning wars for its existence. But Iran is different from Israel's previous enemies because it has years of experience fighting the U.S. and a developed military industry. Iran has spent many years perfecting its state system under severe sanctions, whereas Arab countries were young and inexperienced during the Arab-Israeli wars. It is difficult to determine a winner in such a war, and this is a major deterrent. But the biggest threat is the huge differences between Iran and Israel. Myanmar, Junta versus Brotherhood Alliance. Since 2021, a military junta has seized power in Myanmar. These generals overthrew the democratic government and established relations with Russia, India, and China. China has invested a lot of money to develop Myanmar because it's important for their trade. But the junta is in trouble. They support crime syndicates that kidnap people, mostly Chinese citizens. China demanded that this stop, but the generals continued. China has even made movies about these crimes, which shows the seriousness of the situation. Eventually, China supported the groups fighting against the junta. These groups united and inflicted several defeats on the junta. China does not want the junta to fall completely, but the situation could get out of control. PRC versus Taiwan.
On January 13, 2024, Taiwanese people elected a new president. This president is against integration with the mainland. Therefore, China is increasing pressure and surrounding the island with its warships and airplanes. All this could lead to the possibility that war could break out in the region. Taiwan's ruling party wants complete independence from China. Experts believe that Taiwan will not dare to declare independence anytime soon because China is determined.
All major players want to maintain the status quo, but China's real plans remain vague. Taiwan is keen to avoid the fate of Ukraine, and elections will be an important factor for the island's future. Africa. The Sahel is the territory south of the Sahara, where the situation is now tense. There are military coups and conflicts in Niger and Mali. Mali is ruled by a pro-Russian junta that is backed by the Wagner Group. Jihadists control a large part of Mali and want to increase their control. War at sea. In the Red Sea, pro-Iranian Houthis are shelling ships they believe are linked to Israel. The U.S. promises to protect civilian ships, but the Houthis threaten to shell U.S. warships. How the U.S. will react if Iranian-made and Yemen-launched ballistic missiles do hit at least one of their ships is hard to predict, especially if there are U.S. military casualties. So it is very possible that war will break out there as a result.